It is week 4 of the Wolf Draft League, and I don't know if it's Wolfey Draft League or Wolf Draft League because we've changed it a bunch of times, but we have the Jubilife Piplups here, and we're going to be taking on Uzi Gunner and his Thunderclap Titans. And for those of you who don't know Uzi, he is a monster at Draft League, especially a little bit less so in VGC, but has made quite a name for himself in this Draft League, already making some big upsets in this league. So we're going to be trying out a interesting team that is going to be taking on Uzi's team, which features some really heavy tailwind offensive threats such as the Hisuian Typhlosion, the Whimsicott, and Dragapult, alongside the potential trigger mode of the Araquanid and the Gallade. Let's break it down. So this is the team I decided to craft against Uzi, and I'm not gonna lie, this is probably the longest I've ever spent in a Draft League setting on like building, because I felt that this matchup was very tricky to maneuver, because there's two different modes that Uzi does have: the Trick Room mode with Araquanid and Gallade potentially alongside Malamar, and then that more fast offensive lead with the Typhlosion and the Dragapult and Whimsicott. And it's pretty scary because if I play wrong with the speeds, the team I'm bringing is pretty frail and could just get easily blown up by something. So I kind of have to get right on the commitments. So I decided, you know what, I'm more committed to stopping the tailwind offense mode. I think Hisuian Typhlosion is really good into me. I think the Dragapult is probably coming. So I ended up going with a lead after crafting for more than 2 hours. The combination I decided to stop, especially that Hisuian Typhlosion Whimsicott mode, was going to be the Cinderace plus the Kilowattrel. And the idea here is with the Focus Sash, Kilowattrel survives the attack, and with the Assault Vest, like Cinderace can just easily be able to tank the Eruptions or the Heat Waves even in Sun, or special defense like Big Tears drops from the Whimsicott. I'm going to be able to take that attack with the Sucker Punch threat that I can go for into the Dragapult and the Hisuian Typhlosion. I did almost debate about running Choice Band or the Life Orb, but I felt like it didn't exactly work. I needed Libero for the calcs, and apparently Libero and Stellar Terra aren't exactly like the friendliest interactions in the game, so I'm not risking that interaction in this week. So I decided just to go with the Assault Vest Blaze set because it does allow me to keep my fire typing, and if I need to change it for the Sucker Punch. The only problem is it doesn't allow me to KO the Dragapult, which is a little bit unfortunate, but have to go with what makes it probably giving me the best odds into like all the different versions of Hisuian Typhlosion as well as the Dragapult, which I'm expecting Terra Dragon potentially for that Dragon Darts. And that's why I had the Terra Fairy Kilowattrel, because it means that Dragon Darts won't be effective. If I do switch into Alolan Ninetales and have the Terra Fairy Kilowattrel, it is going to be pretty effective there. And you might be noticing I do run the Quick Attack here, and mainly that Quick Attack is to help out against weakened foes, specifically Sash on Whimsicott, so I can ignore the Endeavor potentially from the Whimsicott, and of course the Encore pressure that it does have. But the idea of this Kilowattrel, get the tailwind up, it is faster, can threaten some heavy damage. Yeah, that's the idea. And I have Volt Absorb for the Toxtricity, and there's no like Intimidate on his team. Scarf Ninetales is pretty good against his team if I'm able to outspeed everything, especially because it does threaten the Whimsicott, the Dragapult, as well as the Hisuian Typhlosion with the Terra Ground Terra Blast option. And I do think that Uzi could run like a Terra Steel Terra Blast like he has before previously. So I decided that I think the Choice Scarf Ninetales is probably my best option. It puts on a lot of offensive pressure against the Hisuian Typhlosion, the Dragapult, and the Whimsicott mode especially. Then I have this final Gambit Annihilate with Taunt. This is more of a standard VGC set, but the idea here is to prevent the Trick Room mode. If I do expect like both a Tailwind and Trick Room mode from Uzi, I can lead the Annihilate in some situations and go for that final Gambit to take the trade on like the Gallade, for example, or the Malamar. And I do have the Taunt again to cover for the Trick Room, and also like some Tailwinds or other different setups. So that's the idea here. I'm going more of an offensive Annihilate, but it's really hard to set up against a really more offensive paced team, so I'd rather just go on the offensive, no protect needed. Then we have this Life of Revavroom, which this is my Pokemon that has really good coverage against Uzi's team. Having the Steel type is great for the Dragapult Dragon Darts. It can one-shot max HP Gallade with the Life of Gunk Shot, and it can also do a lot of damage to the Araquanid, which is pretty huge because I don't have the best ways of dealing damage to the Araquanid. So that is the idea behind the Revavroom, alongside Hard Horsepower for the Hisuian Typhlosion, the Berserker, and the Toxtricity. And the final mod is going to be the Choice Specs Duotion, because if Uzi commits more to that Trick Room version of his team, I will try to blow up everything with this Duotion, because Terra Psychic with Choice Specs and Psyshock will be able to one-shot a max HP Gallade, for example, and do a ton of damage to the Araquanid, and you know, get some knockouts, especially with the Quick Attack and Sucker Punch priorities that I do have. So that is the idea behind the team. We'll see if it works out, but my idea plan is keep the speeds in line with Kilowattrel Cinderace, putting on a lot of pressure, and then Alolan Ninetales being able to outspeed the rest of his team, and either Revavroom or Annihilate will be able to clean up afterward. But let's get into the game against Uzi Gunner. But I do want to say we do live at opposite sides of the world. He was recording early in his morning. I was recording late at my night. I was not able to do live commentary for this one because we recorded super late at night. So this is going to be post commentary. James is going to be taking off. So it is what it is, but let's get into the battle. All right, post James here to break down the analysis. We have Ghost Dragapult, Water Rockrunnit, Normal Toxtricity, Water Whimsicott, Water Gallade, and Hisuian Typhlosion. Pretty much I kind of expected everything that Uzi has brought for this week. We have the Dragapult with the Ghost Terra, which makes me think it's going to have the Ghost Terra Blast for my Annihilate specifically. The Hisuian Typhlosion plus the Whimsicott I'm not really too surprised by. It's pretty strong into me, as well as the Rockrunnit and Gallade, which are pretty offensive threats. The Toxtricity was a little bit out of my expectation, but across the board, feel like I'm pretty good with just going with my game plan that I initially prepped for this week, which was leading the Kilowattrel plus the Cinderace, and then having the Choice Scarf Ninetales as well as the Revavroom back. I got to make sure that I don't fall for any Trick Room shenanigans, specifically from Whimsicott and Gallade if they have it. And I also got to make sure that the Dragapult is kept in check. And I decide that I'm going to bring Annihilate as my 4th Pokemon because I really need to make sure that I can pressure the knockouts into the Rockrunnit potentially, as well as the Gallade, as Annihilate doesn't really accomplish too much immediately off the bat. And Duosion, again, I only want to bring it if I was expecting more of a hard conversion for a Trick Room setup. So that's what I decided to lead here. I had my game plan pretty much set. I already had like the ideas of what I want to deal with. I'm full committed on expecting the Frisk Typhlosion plus the Whimsicott to lead, because I think it is just finding out my items, especially in a game 1 scenario. I think it's a pretty good lead for him in general. Like, I think it's just able to really just find my sets immediately and then just able to plan out the rest of the game according to it. So let us get started, as we are going to see a different lead than what I expected. Gallade plus Dragapult versus my Kilowattrel plus Cinderace. And I'm like, this is a little bit annoying because I do have the Terra Dark on the Cinderace, and I'm like, okay, and I let them get Trick Room up, and I'm like, no, not really. So I gotta do whatever it takes to really get rid of this Gallade right here, because I don't have the best switch-ins. I decided to double up with Air Slash here because I need to damage into Gallade. I can't unfortunately go for Tailwind, so if this is like Trick Room Whimsicott back, I'm very scared here. And I also got to worry about potential Terra Ghost Terra Blast immediately into my Cinderace, for example. So I actually do decide here, because I'm calcing, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna just double up the Gallade here with Pyro Ball plus the Air Slash. I don't think he's gonna Terrasilize immediately, and I'm just going for the Terra Dark to cover for the Terra Ghost Terra Blast, because I could see him going for like an attack with Dragapult alongside a Trick Room attempt with Gallade. So that's exactly what I anticipate here. So I decide I'm gonna rip the Terra Dark immediately with my Cinderace again for Terra Ghost Terra Blast. I'll live any other attack other than maybe Outrage or U-turn, I suppose, but I don't think they're gonna U-turn my Cinderace. I think they would U-turn my Kilowattrel. But we see Quick Guard, which was like, oh, okay, that's interesting, as we do see the Dragon Darts there, and it pretty much confirms that it is going to be the Choice Band Dragapult, which is not something I'm like too surprised by, as I do go for the Air Slash into the Gallade and a Pyro Ball to double up the Gallade to take the knockouts. So not the best, not the worst trade. I do get rid of the Gallade, a huge offensive threat, but right now both Pokemon are in range of the Dragon Darts, and I don't exactly have the greatest switch, right? At least on the bright side, I can threaten the Terra Dark Sucker Punch, but unfortunately, as I mentioned before, this Dragapult probably going to have some bulk, I'd imagine, and that means he'd be able to live the Sucker Punch, because I'm not like a Life Orb set. I decided to go the Assault Vest to plan for the Hisuian Typhlosion, which now I'm kind of regretting, because I did have an angle before where I was like a Choice Band Terra Dark set, as well as a Life Orb Terra Dark set. So those would have been really helpful here, but unfortunately that was not going to be the case. And now I have to worry about like what's coming out. Is it going to be the Whimsicott back? And yeah, it's going to be the Whimsicott. You pretty much just want to go for like a Tailwind and the Dragon Darts right here. It's pretty safe to set up. And here I'm like, okay, how am I maneuvering this? Because I don't have Protect on any of these mods. So I'm like, okay, which Pokemon am I switching to Alolan Ninetales to eat up the Dragon Darts and the attack in general? Or basically the Ninetales pretty much comes in for free, other than like Whimsicott going for a specific move here. I could also double out Revavroom into Ninetales, and I'm just calcing the Dragon Darts. it is pretty scary to switch into the choice band Dragon Dart. So I'm like, okay, I don't think I can really risk both here. I'm just gonna go Ninetales for the Kilowattrel and save it, and then just draw out this Sucker Punch into the Dragapult if necessary. The only problem is I'm trying to figure out what the last Pokemon is, because the last Pokemon is super scary depending on what it is. If it's Typhlosion, I'm in a lot of trouble. If it's a Rockrunnid, it could be scary as well. So I gotta really think about this. If this is Toxtricity, I don't think it's like the worst for me, because I do have the Volt Absorb Kilowattrel. So I do go for the Sucker Punch into the Dragapult, and it does some pretty good damage. It's not like super bulky Dragapult. It probably has like a lot of speed and Mentality speed, like my Cinderace, for example, but I do get to confirm that, as Dragon Darts is going to finish off my Cinderace, as Uzi did get the Tailwind up. Now I'm in a lot of trouble, actually, because it really depends. I think I should have looked back in hindsight and probably have swapped out the Cinderace and sacked the Kilowattrel, because now I'm a little bit concerned about, like, okay, if it's going to be the Typhlosion back, I pretty much just lose here. I don't have a switch into Heat Wave or the Eruption. So right here, I'm basically hoping, I think, for Uzi to make a mistake. I think I made a mistake by just staying in with my Cinderace when I probably should, because I didn't really need to damage on Dragapult if I wasn't getting knockout, right? I think I needed to switch out to Cinderace instead to the Ninetales and maybe just quick attack with Kilowattrel in case. But now I decide, hey, I'm going to go Revavroom here and just hope for the mistake, right? Because if I go Kilowattrel, doesn't accomplish anything. Dragon Darts will do a lot, but like here, I'm just trying to catch a switch, right? I go for the high horsepower and a Blizzard. The reason I'm going to do this is because if Uzi decides to make a mistake and does have Typhlosion in the back, I'm going to hope that he risks it and switches out to Dragapult. If he does have Typhlosion in the back, his best play is just to go for Dragon Darts Moonblast and then get into Typhlosion and then win the game by clicking Eruption. But I am just hoping for a misplay at this point. But yeah, so I'm trying to call if it's Typhlosion or a Rockrunnid. I think a Rockrunnid I could still win the game even if I get this play wrong. So if Typhlosion is the Pokemon in the back and I need to catch it on the switch, I think that was like the reason why I decided to go for the all-in commitment here. We do see Dragapult switch and it is a Rockrunnid coming out, and I'm like, okay, so if I went for the Gunk Shot or even Poison Jab, I think I just guaranteed one here, which is a bit unfortunate, especially with the special attack drop on the Ninetales, which I wasn't very happy about, but the Blizzard wouldn't have looked like a KO'd Whimsicott. It might have been close to, but yeah, not super ideal. High horsepower is going to come out into the Rockrunnid. Does a pretty good amount of damage. Like, that's a pretty frail Rockrunnid. And now I'm like, well, this is just going to be like Terra Water, probably go for the Liquidation, potentially from the Rockrunnid into the Revavroom. And I'm like, okay. The thing is, it's still kind of awkward for Uzi to really touch the Ninetales, because the only Pokemon that can really do damage to the Ninetales is a Rockrunnid. So there is a chance he reads me, like maybe Protect Revavroom and tries to focus down the Ninetales, so Dragapult has an easier time. I'm just going to go for the Blizzard. I don't have Protect, as I mentioned before. I go for the Gunk Shot into Rockrunnid because I'm not sure if it's max HP. I was calculating some max HP stuff. I think Poison Jab was kind of a range potentially. So I'm like, okay, I'd rather just go for the Gunk Shot if I have to. We're going to see the Terra Water come out from the Rockrunnid here. And it makes sense. And I'm like, okay, what could I have done differently? And I think saving that Cinderace would have been huge. But we see Encore from the Whimsicott to this slot. And I'm like, wait, who did you target for Rockrunnid? Because if it is into the Ninetales, you should never have Terra'd your Rockrunnid in this position. Because now high horsepower will KO the Rockrunnid. But we do get a Blizzard Freeze into the Rockrunnid because a lot of the Ninetales wants us to win the week. So we do get a freeze here, and the Rockrunnid is frozen solid, which means we don't get to confirm it in the game right here, as high horsepower is going to kill the Rockrunnid, and now it's just a Dragapult in the back, and I can pretty much just always secure the win here, guaranteed. So that was a very unfortunate freeze for Uzi, but since I will tell you, we did talk about the set afterward. The Rockrunnid targeted the Ninetales. So this game one, at least, it wouldn't have mattered, because even if you KO the Ninetales, you still can't break through the combination of both my Kilowattrel and my Revavroom. I could go for a guaranteed accurate attacks to secure the game, but since I'm up so much, I'm willing to take the risk here, because I know that I have several lines here that could just guarantee me to win, but I don't want to reveal all the information since I don't have to, right? And I'd rather play the information game at this point than the differential game, because I think the information game is like more valuable to potentially win the set, right? Because like if he sees like more attacks, it could be like a bit more inclined. For instance, if I want to go for Poison Jab, for example, I don't want him to think, oh, I don't have Protect, and maybe like think about like a Protect scenarios. We're gonna see the Phantom Force from the Dragapult. I'm like, okay, I can pretty much just secure the game at this point. he should know that I am Choice Scarf Ninetales. Also, it was like confirmed to be like a really fast rocket. I knew it was like at least max speed. So I go Kilowattrel here because Scarf Ninetales can pretty much secure the game, and I just go for the attack into the Dragapult at this point because I know I'm always losing a Pokemon here to Phantom Force pretty much, and high horsepower again, pretty good odds. And even if I don't, it doesn't change the differential because I would still be going for the end game like Blizzard, clean up the Dragapult that way. So not really that big of a deal if I miss here, and again save some information here as I do go for the high horsepower, and Revavroom just full speed ahead to this game 1 victory. So at this point I'm like, did he go for the liquidation into the Ninetales, or did he go for the liquidation into Rocknet? Because to me, like, the initial thought was it is going to be most likely if you go for the Encore play, it's more likely into the Ninetales. But the Terra Water, yeah, it's kind of a blunder, because if you go for the Ninetales, you really shouldn't Terra Water. And me and Uzi did talk about it after the set, but yeah, the game 1 I would have won it regardless. So luckily that was a relief there, because I was scared about losing the Typhlosion. I thought I mispositioned heavily against the Typhlosion, which I did. I should have sacked Kilowattrel instead of the Cinderace, but I'm shaking that off, and we got to focus on this game 2, right? Because the game 2 is going to be super crucial here, as we would like to take this to a 2-0 win because it matters for a differential, and the ties potentially, like it's a tiebreaker for this league. But also I would like to not have to go into game 3 against this team, especially because it's again got some pretty offensive threats. I do think that this was one of the tougher matchups that I was going to have throughout the competition. All right, we're going to get into game 2, but I was like, okay, what do I want to mix up this time? Do I even want to mix it up? I think the 4 I bring are solid. I don't really like the Annihilate in this matchup. The set that I brought isn't like incredible, and of course the double ghosts are still really scary, and I don't really need Dual Ocean. There's no Trick Room, right? So I was debating about like different lines that I could take, and I feel like if he's not leading Typhlosion, he might not decide to lead it this time. So I'm like, okay, I'm willing to go Kilowattrel Ninetales, because if he decides to lead the Dragapult again, there's a Terra Fairy option that I have a Kilowattrel that I could just go for like Terra Fairy, Tailwind, and just attack, right? And I don't have to waste a turn switching out potentially into Ninetales. But if they decide to lead the Whimsicott plus the Typhlosion, I don't even think it's too bad. I go for like an Air Slash, get some damage off, and hopefully put in range of the Sucker Punch from the Cinderace, and I could switch into Eruption pretty comfortably because I do have that Assault Vest on Cinderace. So if he decides to lead Dragapult, which he did decide, hey, that's a pretty good offensive tool, I'm like willing to go for the risk here, because Scarf Ninetales is pretty good effectively, like against a lot of Uzi's team, and it just puts on a lot of pressure, right? It puts on a lot of pressure with the Moonblast in the Gallade, and with the Kilowattrel lead, I can go for like a Thunderbolt and Fury plus like a Moonblast into the Gallade for some really heavy damage, deny the Trick Room that way. So there's a lot here that I am fine with risking here, because I feel like Ninetales covers like the more offensive Dragapult route that he wanted to take, and I don't even know if it's like specs on the Typhlosion, for example. We're gonna see the lead of Toxtricity and Whimsicott, which is an interesting lead, and I'm like, okay, I'm fine with that. I do lead the Kilowattrel plus the Ninetales, and I'm pretty happy with this lead because of the fact that I do have the Volt Absorb on the Kilowattrel, and even though Sludge Bomb is a little bit scary, I don't know the item on Toxtricity, so I don't really want to risk it. I'm like doing some calcs, trying to figure out if Sludge Bomb KOs a Ninetales, because if it doesn't, I will go for the Blizzard, but I don't know the item. If it's Life Orb, I'm not risking it. So here, I decide I'm going to probably just go for the attacks with the Ninetales. I'm definitely clicking Blizzard with Terra Ground. I'm just trying to figure out, do I go for the Tailwind, or is this some Trick Room Whimsicott? I decide, you know what, I'm just going to go for the Tailwind because I want to match the Tailwind. If we play in Trick Room, so be it. I'll find out information. We'll move into game 3 that way, but I'm okay with it. So I do decide to go for the Terastization with Ninetales. Again, this is to cover for Sludge Bomb from the Toxtricity, as well as Overdrives, because Overdrive would be best case scenario because he doesn't do anything to my team in general, and I don't have to risk poisons or anything. We do see the Tailwind come out from Whimsicott, and I'm like, okay, perfect. This is a great situation. As I go for the Blizzard with Ninetales, and it outspeeds the Toxtricity, and it gets the freeze on the Whimsicott. This Ninetales is here to win, but I do get the Tailwind up with the Kilowattrel and match the Tailwinds, which is nice for my Ninetales as Boom Burst comes out. So the freeze didn't matter at all. The freeze did not matter at all. So that one did not matter. And realistically, the first one didn't matter either, as I mentioned before. So that is perfectly fine by me. It's unfortunate that the Blizzard's not a 2-shot, but Throat Spray is active on the Toxtricity. And here I'm like, dang, that's a really slow Toxtricity. and I mean really slow toxicity. Like it undersped my Kilowattra, which was not what I was expecting. But Typhlosion comes in, I'm like, okay, I think I pretty much have this game wrapped up, and I'm just trying to figure out, okay, do I double up the toxicity or do I get the damage on the 9 or on the Typhlosion? And here I'm like, okay, I feel like if I get air slash blizzard damage into the Typhlosion, I just put in range of Sucker Punch from my what's it called, my Cinderace. So I'm like, okay, that's perfectly fine, right? And that's the goal here. So I'm just going to go for air slash and blizzard because it does enough, and then Revavroom should outspeed the toxicity easily, and then I should be in a really good spot. So I go for the blizzard with the Ninetales. Again, just trying to get some chip damage onto the team. We get a decent amount of chip into the Typhlosion, but this air slash miss is actually really bad because that damage would have probably put the Typhlosion in under 50%. And as you can see, it goes for the Heat Wave. Doesn't do that much to my Ninetales, so I know it's not specs at least. But if I hit that air slash, he was in range of Sucker Punch plus Blizzard, even if he Terras, or just Sucker Punch in general, and that would have been huge for me. So right here, very unfortunate spot, because now Uzi has the option to go for Terastallization, and that's pretty bad for me. He can go for Terastallization and get out of this dark type weakness that I do have. So it's not a great position for me. Like Terra Fire, I'm pretty much expecting here, plus the electricity just to go for like an overdrive right here. But this is a tough position. I'm trying to think of whether it's to target the Typhlosion or target the toxicity here. I decide I'm gonna go for the Pyro Ball into the toxicity and just go for the Blizzard, because I know that the Terra Fire is coming anyway, and I'm a bit worried about how much the toxicity does with +1 to my Cinderace. So we are going to see the Quick Attack come out into the Ninetales, which was shocking because he was in Sucker Punch range potentially. So I was like, wow, okay. I don't even get the Blizzard damage off, which is actually still pretty bad, as toxicity does go down to the Pyro Ball. And I'm like, okay, Revavroom, and then last mon, I was debating pretty much it's a Rockwind at this point. Like if it is the Dragapult, like it's fine, but I still probably have to crit the Typhlosion anyway. But we do see a Rockwind come out. I'm like, okay, this game's gonna come down to what the Typhlosion has as its full move pool. Does it have an accurate fire type move? Does it connect? And I just go for the Sucker Punch in the Typhlosion, and I go for the Gunk Shot. I think looking back at this, I should have just went for the Sucker Punch in the Typhlosion anyway and the Blizzard, because I'm pretty sure that single target overdrive just didn't KO my Cinderace with the Assault Vest, and I didn't need the Cinderace healthy. I just needed the Cinderace to remove the Typhlosion, because when I think about it, the Rockwind was just guaranteed to lose to my Revavroom, assuming I hit my moves, right? Like I was outspeeding it. I had the Gunk Shot with Life Orb that one shots no bulk or Rockwind it, as well as like it outspeeds and threatens the toxicity. So I go for the Sucker Punch. Still no Terra from Uzi, which I'm shocked by because a crit would have just ended it. Heat Wave gonna come out, and this Typhlosion decides to double miss. As I do land my Gunk Shot into the Rockwind, and it one shots the Rockwind. I'm like, yeah, that's how Pokemon goes sometimes. A bit unfortunate right there, of course, but remember what happened before. The air slash miss on the Typhlosion would have helped secure the end game a lot easier, and probably would have, again, not guaranteed me to win, but put me in a really high probability odds to win that game. By the way, I was calculating like the Heat Wave on the Typhlosion. Because it was Blaze Typhlosion and not Frisk, I would have gone down to Heat Wave. I actually always live Heat Wave from Typhlosion if it isn't Blaze or a boosting item. So I was just at this point just hoping that he wasn't some boosting item. And unfortunately I did put him in the Blaze, and then yeah, like I mean, that's just how it goes sometimes. That is the game of Pokemon. I have a guaranteed win now because I can always just Sucker Punch here the Typhlosion and just always have it as a wrap, because I'm always guaranteed this. But yeah, Sucker Punch gonna take out the Typhlosion, and that is gonna be the game against Uzi. So was there RNG in this? Yes. Was there potential throws? Yes. Do I think I played super well? Not really, but that is the game of Pokemon sometime. So yeah, that's the game against Uzi. You know, it was a classic game of Pokemon. You know, Pokemon isn't always fair, especially when I have a lot of moves that can potentially miss, and of course he's also running some inaccurate moves. I do think that I could have played better. The game one, it didn't matter with the freeze. At least he ended up going for a misplay, and because of that I would have taken the win anyway. But of course I could have played better, swapped out the Cinderace to preserve the Sucker Punch threat and cover for Hisuian Typhlosion back, because that was really scary. Instead of the sacking the Cinderace, I should have sacked Kilowattrel instead. And then probably I went for maybe a quick attack in the Whimsicott, because since he got the special attack drop, it could have mattered for like Blizzard and some other ranges, especially if I didn't get the special attack drop. So that was that game one. Game two felt like it was a bit better played by me, but I still don't think I had the best odds. Like, I think I put myself at the best odds, right? I think I should have Air Slash, which I did, into the Typhlosion, put in range of the Sucker Punch. Unfortunately, the Air Slash did miss, but granted, I am going for very inaccurate moves. But I do think my misplay there was targeting the Toxtricity, because I was like pretty confident like he wouldn't go for Boom Burst. Like, unless he hard read me, I went for Terra Normal Boom Burst into my Cinderace, expecting my Sucker Punch. Like, that was the only one that could have been like, that could have been something that could have threatened the knockout. But it's like, I think it's super unlikely he goes for it. I think I should just Sucker Punch to get the damage into the Typhlosion anyway, because even if I don't get the knockout, I can just threaten the Sucker Punch all the time, while assuming that as long as my Revavroom hits its moves, I'm able to win. So I'm not super happy about how I played this week, but was able to take the win. So that is how it goes sometimes. But if you do want to check out Uzi and all the other coaches, highly recommend you go check them out down below in the description. GG's to Uzi. I actually forgot about the Air Slash miss when we were talking about that game, and I completely forgot that I missed an Air Slash at that point. It was late in the night. So a little bit sloppy plays. We can't have that in the Wolfey Draft League. I'm hoping to have some better plays next week. We are going against Necra, and yeah, the Jubilife Piplups currently are still XM1 at this point. We haven't dropped a set against anyone besides Wolf, and hopefully we could keep it that way. But we got some tough opponents coming ahead, especially as we try to make it to playoffs. But of course, subscribe to the channel for more VGC content as always, and I'll catch y'all later.